morning, hello, and welcome to everybody who's joining us today. It's actually good morning, it's good afternoon. Do you know what? I don't know, it's because I'm so used to doing shows in the morning. You are watching Being Human with me, Nat Rich, and today I am joined with Susie Pearl. How are you this morning, Julie? Julie? God, how are you, Susie? There you go.
Yeah, Julie, good. Hot. I'm in Ibiza and it's sweaty. But I'm good.
Oh, good. So how sweaty is it over there? Am I jealous because it's not that hot here?
It's pretty sweaty, yeah. Yeah, I wonder what it is.
I do miss living on the island. So for those of you who are watching, I met Susie while living in Ibiza, and yes, it was probably about 5 years ago now, I think, the first time I met you, but I always heard of this name, Susie Pearl, on the island. And obviously I'm into media and stuff, and everyone's like, you need to meet Susie, you need to meet her, she's amazing. I met you, you're absolute whirlwind, all the stuff you were doing, incredible stuff that you've done over your career. You are a successful author, and I think the first way I heard about you was somebody gave me your book, which I was living with James Popel, and he gave me your book, and I was reading through, and I thought, oh, this is fascinating, I'm really interested in this, it looks quite cool, I'd love to meet her. And then you matched up to the book, and I knew you for several years over there, and then you, unfortunately, something happened, which we'll go into a little bit later. But first and foremost, I'd not heard from you for some time, obviously with lockdown, I'm not on social media, and then all of a sudden you popped up in my email box, and I saw that you have a brand new book. So I thought this is the best time to reach out and talk to you, how I met you and how I now. So do you want to tell us about your latest book?
Yeah, I do. It's called The Art of Creativity. I've been meaning to write it for quite a long time. And it's about how to kind of tap into your inspiration and your creativity. It's not how to paint and design and that kind of creativity. It's the creativity that we all have, that we have this passion for things in life, and it makes us happy, and we check in with our inspiration. And so I kick off talking about fears and how to knock out fears and anxiety, because that kind of holds a lot of people back from doing what they really want to do. Totally. But one interesting thing that happened in quarantine is that people really have been leaning into creativity in a big way, because we got locked down, what to do, and you start doing things that your soul wants you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good, it's healing. It's a healing thing.
It really is. And so you've had quite a lot of press around the book as well. I've been seeing your emails pop up. Yeah. So how's the response been?
Really great. I'm on the Graham Norton show. I've had loads of press, loads of publicity, Daily Express, Times, Mirror, magazines. On Oprah's list, which is exciting. So yeah, I've got some good, and some TV, ITV this morning and things like that. Yeah, it'll be good.
PR wizard you are. Wizard, PR lady.
Something like that. I had a celebrity PR agency for 20 years. So I did know a little bit.
You did just a little bit. No, it's absolutely amazing what you do, and obviously the last time I saw you in the physical was actually at your home in Ibiza, and unfortunately, but obviously now you've come out the other side of it, which is amazing. But at that time, you were given 6 weeks to live. And it was a very shocking time for a lot of people on the island. You are much loved and very well known on the island and across the world. But I don't think, as I said to you the other day, I personally had never experienced a community support in such a quick time as what we did on the island for you. And so obviously, just to tell the listeners and the viewers what happened, I know that you got 6 weeks to live and it was a brain tumour. I know the very basics is that you were flat out refusing to believe that this was even a thing. You had another name for it. You refused it. You resisted it. There was no way anywhere that you were taking this on board and going through what most people would say is an acceptance process. You flat out said, no, this is not happening to me, and off you went on your journey. But can you just tell us, first and foremost, obviously, we were driving in a car just before, which I'll tell in a little short story, but did you even feel that you were ill in any way, shape or form before that happened to you?
No. People say I was behaving a bit odd, but then I do behave a bit oddly, A lot of people said I'm manic, and I'm a busy person. I'm always doing lots and lots of things. So it was kind of hard to really pinpoint when this really kicked in. But a neighbour of mine was meeting me for a cup of tea, and I was really late. And she said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I don't really know. I forgot how to get here." She said, "You've been acting really strange. I'm going to take you to get checked out." We went to a bioresonance woman on the island who's extraordinary, Burkett. And she has got these magnets and does all sorts of crazy things with this machine. And she said, "Something massive is going on with your head. You need to go to a hospital." I thought, "I'm not going." So my neighbour forced me to go. They did a scan and immediately saw this gigantic, huge tumour. And yeah, I mean, I spent 20 years studying mind technology and, reality creation. And I knew if I focused on this thing and gave it headspace, literally, it would kill me. Whereas I did believe, I had a very strong belief process that you can heal your body. So I decided that's what I was going to do. I was going to do every technique I had, and I'd learned a lot of techniques. I was going to pull out every tool from the toolbox and heal myself. And you know what? I did it. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that you did. And I remember I was in Wild Beats, and I was in Ibiza, and I was minding my own business, doing some writing, had a little headache, and all of a sudden I look up and there you are, and you were like, "You okay? You just spaced out a bit." And I said, "No, I've just got this headache just literally came over me. It was crazy. It came over me all of a sudden." And you were like, "This is just not acceptable. No, come on. You paid for my bill. You ushered me into your car. You drove me down to your house and said, I've got a friend coming." And it was almost as if you didn't even know I knew the friend, which was our mutual friend, Faye. You were like, "I've got a friend coming. You're going to have a Reiki session. He'll be fine. It's okay." You literally whisked me into your house, put me on your sofa, chucked me a blanket. And I was just like, in all of about 20 minutes, like, what the hell's going on? So I'm laid in your lovely house, which I'd never been in before. And in walks Faye and takes you upstairs because you're having a session first. And then the next thing I know is I'm having a session. So I feel vastly better. And I'm like, "Thanks so much. Can I do anything?" You're like, no, my treat. And you were very insistent and you're still full on. And then you said, "Right, where do you want to go?" And I said, "I'm just going to walk around." And I was going to walk up the Camino and go to Esteban's cafe. And he said, no, I'll drive. So I said, "Okay." So I get in the car with you. And I remember very clearly thinking something's not quite right. And I explained to you the other day is that when we went to drive out of your drive, you drove into the wall slightly on the side. And I'm thinking, and it was almost as if it didn't even happen. You just carried on. And I'm thinking, did she notice? Because I definitely did. And I'm like, what's going on? But I remember thinking something's not right because you didn't quite notice, but also you do that every day, 2 or 3 times a day. And you would drive out of there, no hassle in the dark, with no lights before you put your lights on Camino. It's coming out of that drive. You know it so well. And then we were meant to go left and you went right. And I was thinking, oh, she must need to go to the post office. I don't know, something. So we're driving up another Camino and you're like, "I love it up here. Let me just show you the flowers." And you show me all of these flowers. And I thought, oh, she's just showing me the flowers. She's got nothing to do today. So obviously I wasn't in a rush. You weren't in a rush, but we went up through the field. But the speed at which you were driving, I'm thinking, I can't really see the flowers because you're going really fast. And we get up and we're back out to where we started, up to the Santa Gratulis. And I'm like, this is completely a different place to where I was going. And we drove the long way around. So he said, "Oh, isn't the island lovely?" And we're driving around. And I'm thinking, I'm not comfortable, but I don't want to say anything. I know you and we know each other, but do I say anything? Do I not? Am I going to offend you? So for me, it was like just shut up. It's just fine. Just going a long way around. And we got to Esteban's cafe. And as I said, I used to see you every other morning drive in when I would be there, and you'd drive in and you'd park up and you'd come and get your coffee. And this morning you didn't even drive up. You just swerved in and just pulled up, and there was no like organization to it or anything. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, something's definitely not right. And I was worried, but I didn't have anyone to talk to about that because I didn't know what to say. And within 24 hours, I think that must have been the day before you obviously went with your friend and had this experience. And for me now, knowing what happened and the processes that you went through after that, it was amazing to see how much fun you were having and how like you were in your own world, and you were fine. You genuinely believed you were fine.
I did. I thought I knew what I was doing. And apparently I was much fun to be around at that time.
Oh, you were great.
Pretty manic, pretty excitable, and very passionate about life. And when I got back after being in hospital, I saw my car and I was like, wow, dents all over it, bumps all over it. And apparently I'd been running into trees, reversing into posts, all sorts of things, because I didn't have any sense of boundaries. And it's like all my filters changed. And when from my illness, it's almost like I've got a new operating software. I see the world differently. I had different downloads, different perspectives of the world. And I didn't have the same restrictions that most people have. I had no notions of being restricted by money or boundaries of countries, all of this sort of thing. It was all wide open to me.
It was like you were tripping on mushrooms, I must say. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, people thought, whoa, what's she doing? It was very funny, actually. I mean, it was sad as well, but it was very funny. And I was fine with it. I was very happy. And to be honest, all through my illness, I was a happy camper.
You really were. And I remember that, as we explained the other day when we briefly chatted, it was obviously from living on the island for just under 4 years or so. I'd seen a beautiful sense of community on the island. I'd seen people to coming together. My own social circle was changing rapidly on the island, going from different groups, but everybody entwines like they do in Ibiza. And in my last kind of year there, I was hanging around with a different kind of group, which was largely your group, and that kind of, seeing the community sense there was beautiful, and getting to know everyone, and everyone kind of supports everyone. And whether you're partying or breakfasting, it's just a role of life. And obviously when this happened to you, the community went and kind of come together very quickly. And there was about 30 of us that were invited to your house, which nobody really knew at this point exactly the full story. Only a handful of people knew. We all knew something was wrong. We all knew we needed to come for some reason. And we all turned up to your house. And, we all got a sense that this could potentially be the last time that we saw you. And like you said the other day, it was a bit like, your wake with you there. And you were in absolutely great spirits. It was, you were like, hey, how is everyone? Hostess with the mostess, but you're the center of attention. And we all sat round and we went through a lovely held, what would I would call a ceremony, in the sense of the way that it was held, by really great friends of yours as well, Zoran and Lilian and a few other people. And it was so incredible to be a part of, to see and to experience something like that. And what was happening was I experienced, it's all about being human on the show, and I experienced every single person that I saw on a daily basis in different places, a different version of themselves come out and say something to you, because we were asked to share our personal message to you. And watching each person as they go around the room and say to you what they thought could well be their last words and what they wanted you to think and believe and know before you went was so grounding. It was like, I could cry when I think about how beautiful that experience was, whether you can remember it or not. Personally, I was just like, God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And there was singing there for you, and you were saying things and talking about stuff in the highest of spirits. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know what to say when they come around to me. I don't know what to say. And I very clearly, I said, I know you, and I'm so glad that I'm here. But one thing I want to say to you is, and I just started my radio show in Ibiza on Cafe Mambo Radio. And I said to you, I don't know if you remember, I said, you know what? I don't want to say much. All I want to say is that on the other side of this, I want you to come onto my radio show and tell everyone how you smashed it, because you got through it. And you were like, yay! And you were so happy. And I thought, I really, truly can see that happening. And here we are. It's albeit 2 years later, here we are. Can you remember being in that room? I can
remember flashes of that room. I mean, I lost most of my memory in the process with this tumour. But I do remember things. I remember the incredible. I mean, we talk about community, but it's the most important thing in life. And I think many people have learned that in lockdown and quarantine. We need a community of some sort. We need people to lean in. What happened here was quite amazing. This group of people, about 30 or 40 people, all got together and supported me in my life and got me through all of this. Someone was looking after, talking with my family about the medical stuff. Someone was looking after my house and garden. Someone was looking after, my house and all of this stuff. So every area of my life, and I was being bought food every day from the cafes. From
the highest quality food, I might add, from Esteban's Cafe.
Beautiful food from Kangumo and from Roma, all the best cafes that I love, they all came every day and brought me food and juices and just beautiful food to make me more healthy, because the food in hospital is terrible. And they'd come to the I keep calling it a hotel room, my hospital room, with guitars and sing, and the nurses would come in and go, what? I mean, it is Ibiza, so kind of it is a bit in context that people should be singing and dancing, but they say, you having a party in here, Susie, all the time? And I went, kind of. And then on the terrace, and people were sitting out on the terrace, and there was always guitars being played. It was beautiful. What an environment to get better in, you know, and it gave me hope. And I do remember looking around the room with all these people in my house thinking, you know, this is incredible. But I knew, something inside me knew I would get through this. But it was a very beautiful moment to hear everyone tell you actually what they think of you, knowing they may not ever be able to speak to you again. So that was extraordinary.
I don't think I will ever be in an environment like that again. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And when I do think about it, I get, you know, tears in my eyes, because it was so humbling to see that from, you know, like we said, about 30 or so people. And I remember I bought my dog Raymond, which you I don't know if you remember him, but he was running up to you and you were just kind of just stroking him. You wouldn't really let him go, and you were just like you're like a child with a puppy, and you were so happy to the point where a lot of people around you, and obviously in the group, we're all very spiritually minded, conscious people, and we understand the process of acceptance. And once you've accepted something, a real growth can come from that. And you at that time had a point where there was no acceptance whatsoever. You were not accepting this in your mind. You were not accepting this in your head. It was not part of your body. You didn't want it to be part of your conversations. You actually named it something else, which I won't say, but you named it something else.
I named it Robbie Williams.
Yeah, can you actually go on and can you tell us why you named it Robbie Williams?
Well, because it was like, I remember describing this is the only thing I can remember from that gathering at my home, saying Robbie Williams is like this strong character who thinks he's fantastic and doing it, you know, but actually he's messed up, you know, he's just messed up. And I remember feeling like it was a rock star in my head, you know, this kind of rock star humor. And I thought, yeah, you know, we're gonna deal with that ego side of this rock star tumor and get rid of it. Also, when I was going in for a scan in the hospital in Ibiza, I went into this MRI scanner. It's quite a scary thing, you know. It comes down. You're in this sort of tube while they scan your brain. And as I was going in, I remember being visited by what I would describe as angels, but this feeling, this sense of getting this information that I was told going in, don't worry about this, Suze. You're going to be fine. You're going to get out of this. You're going to have three it's quite specific. You're going to have 3 scans. One's going to be terrible. Expect bad news. The second one, it's going to shrunk. And the third one, it's going to have disappeared. Yeah. And you know what? That's exactly what happened.
Incredible.
I knew ahead of time. When I went in for the first doctor's appointment, I said, I know it's bad news. He said, it's terrible. It's not my job to dress this up, and I'm not going to. You know, you haven't got long. You need to go and sort of write your last letter, do a will, all this sort of. And I was told all of this. And Liliana, my neighbour, made me write a note to my son, the last note. I found it the other day because I'm moving, and I found it. I read it. And that's my last letter to my son, but it wasn't the last letter, and I knew it wasn't.
And there was times, obviously, when it's a small island, everyone's connecting and everyone's asking how you are and what can we do, and is there anything that we need to do? And there was this sense of everything was taken care of. Yeah. Everything. There was one person on every part of your life, whether it was you're looking after your finance, looking after the house, making sure the car was okay, making sure your son Will was okay, making sure you had the right diet, getting you the CBD oil, getting you the right Reiki, getting you the hypnotism. It was one person on one job all at the same time. And that level of community and that level of support really touched everyone. I don't think everyone knew that was capable, that they were capable of that in such a quick way. This was not a planned operation. This was put extremely tightly together. By Zora and co, and it went, and everybody stepped up. And
there were regular meetings, as I understand now. I found out where they had like a task force of people who would meet regularly at Zoran and Lily's house or other people, and they'd get together and they'd plan it. And these people are meticulously brilliant on planning anyway. But what they did here was really plan my route out of this in a way that can't imagine. And someone once said, you know, and my friend Uri Fruckman said, you know, if this is what it's like to get ill, then, you know, Ibiza is the place to be. If you want to recover, you want looked after, you know, this is the community like none of us had ever seen. It's quite breathtaking, very, very beautiful. And the other thing was, I didn't have any fear at this time. You know, people said, "Oh, you must have been so fearful." I wasn't actually.
You didn't even know what the meaning of the word fear meant. It was like it was not even in your vocabulary to say the word fear. You were so disattached.
I so knew that I was not going anywhere. But also, I wasn't afraid. You know, if it came to it, I wasn't afraid to die. You know, because I did actually leave my body in the hospital once, so I knew what I came back in. So I knew what it was like to actually leave my body, and I kind of whizzed around and got a different perspective of things, came back in, and I wasn't afraid to die. You know, life is hard work. Being a human is hard work. You know, it's a lot of challenges, it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of overwhelm, it's a lot of and you know, it's not always easy. And I wasn't afraid to die. That's the thing also. You know, I had great courage through it all. And I didn't die. Well, I did die once, but then I came back.
So you obviously, you're not alone on this planet. You have a son, beautiful Will. Can you say, can you talk a little bit about what that time was like, you know, for him as he expressed how he feels obviously about that? And then obviously since that time, how has that changed for you having, you know, because he essentially wasn't there when we did the wake, if I remember rightly. He wasn't on the island, he was in Amsterdam, if I remember. But that process was extreme. He was going through his A levels as well, I think, at the time. So that process is extremely tough. So can you explain a little bit what that was like as a parent and child?
Well, he was a young boy. He was 18, and he'd grown up with me, so he kind of got his head around the importance of focusing on the positive and living life in a positive way and talking positively. It's like I wouldn't allow people around my bed in the hospital or whatever to talk negative or come in with some really heavy duty prognosis. I was like, I would stop them and make them leave, to the fury of people around my family. Like, oh, you know, we need to know what the doctor said. And I don't know. I don't want to know what they're saying. And my son had the same thing as me. He knew I was going to get out of this. And he was really strong and really courageous and really like, I know Mum's going to be all right. So people were thinking, oh, bless him. You know, he doesn't really understand. He did understand. And he was fine. And he and I got through it. And, you know, we can bless it now. It's one of the greatest things that's ever happened. I mean, I'm kind of like on the island and other places, people know my story. People I don't even know, when they find out who I am, they know my story. And so for him, he said, you know, he'd been through this thing of he's Susie Pearl's son all the time. You know,
everyone's like, oh, you're Susie Pearl's son.
And it's a lot, you know, it's a lot to deal with. But he's flown through it. He's just become the most extraordinary human being because he's seen me deal with this, and I think in his mind now he can deal with anything. So he's a very courageous guy and a very lovely guy.
That's beautiful. And he's part of the Ibiza Brotherhood. He's got, you know, the youngest member, I think. And for those that don't know who that is, it's a beautiful group of men on the island that have formed an incredible conscious circle that holds space for themselves in each member as and when they need it for any of what shows up in life. And it, you know, on that island there's good things, there's bad things, there's stress in life, and they're there and fully supported for each other. And I remember having a conversation, I think it was with Jo very briefly, that was you know, Will would always be taken care of regardless of what happened to you. And to have, because I obviously in society that some really deep dark things can happen on a guy's journey, and to not go through that kind of process of being fully supported by an elder masculine is hard enough as it is. Obviously Will's dad and everything, which is fine, but this was an entire group of conscious men on the island willing to step in and play dad in that role if needed and be like, hey, don't worry, we've got this. And that was also another part of it of beautiful to see. And it was very unusual outside of sort of tribal cultures to see very much. These strong men all lent into Will and really looked out for him and cared for him. When I was in hospital and Will was out of school, he had about 4 weeks in Ibiza, and Hieronymo and some of the other guys, you know, said,
come and stay at our house. He stayed there. He didn't have transport. He kind of hiked around, and they just looked after him, and they really made sure that he was taken care of and could take after himself. So he learned a lot about standing up for himself and standing tall as a young man. So it made him really bloom, and it was wonderful for him to have these really strong guys around to show him the way as well. It's kind of like the tribes do it. It's very, very interesting, and it was happening here in the most extraordinary way. And they're still having these strong men's meetings and supporting each other. It's wonderful.
It is very much, and I've said to them before, I want to, at some point when I do, I've got to do a whole kind of conscious men's section on being human and on all sorts on I Am Sound, and there's a few of them I want to have on and kind of talk about that because it's so important. But back to your healing process and kind of what you used, as well as the power of the Susie Pearl mind, which is magnificent. You also use a number of other treatments, which is hypnosis, I believe someone gave to you every day. You were having Reiki, you had CBD, and I remember the CBD story where at one point it was like the whole island was on high alert, like, we need to get the best CBD. Where can we get it from? Who's got the best CBD contacts? Where can we go? It needs to be this, it needs to be that, it needs to be high grade. It was meticulous, but I believe that they got it to you in the end.
They tracked them down in Switzerland from extremely high end, extremely powerful, and extremely well put together by this scientist guy who had contacts on the island. So someone went and got this, and I think hand carried it back to me in London and smuggled it into the hospital, because of course, you know, the doctors were going, we don't know what this is, and we don't want to know. And my family were going, just don't even go there, because the legislation is so confusing. It's a bit like, what are we allowed to do post-lockdown? No one really understands the rules. And the same with CBD oil. So I had the finest CBD oil coming from Switzerland. It cost an incredible amount of money because it was so pure. And these guys all put together to create a fund to get this to me. So I was taking this every day. I was having hypnosis from a wonderful woman called Amanda in Ibiza, who was on Skype with me every day. So I'd be chatting to her on Skype with my headphones on. Doctors would come in to inject me and bring me all sorts of horrible things. And I go, shh, I'm being hypnotized. And they've got no category for this. They were like, what? Right. And they were kind of laughing at me and rolling their eyes at me. But I was the one who walked out alive, which is the opposite of what they thought. So I did that. Nutrition was very important. Visualization, I visualized every day, sitting on the beach, being with my friends, coming back to Ibiza. I put up lots of imagery in my hospital room to help me get out in my mind to get home again. And I wrote a book while I was in hospital. That was good to keep my mind off things. And I became really creative. And I just had this point of view that everything and anything was possible. And I remember, like, I had someone working with me at the time, dear Anna, and she was saying, Suze, can you stop like creating press conferences and
I remember
film scripts and calling, I called a press conference one day and set it up at the Montesol Hotel. And I think I was in England at this point, in hospital in Cambridge. So I wasn't even in the right country. I couldn't figure out what country I was in and what everyone else was in. I kept inviting people over to see me, and they would be in different countries. I hadn't got that clear in my mind. So it was a very strange time for people. They get an email and from me wondering whether they should act on it. And Anna would have them saying, if you get any emails from Susie, please just ignore them for now.
I remember we were working at the Hub, actually. I don't know if you remember, but we were working at the Hub, and we'd had a conversation, and you just had an intense and incredible brainstorming session with, I forgot what the lady's name was, and her husband. And
Funny and Matt.
Yeah. And you'd had this incredible brainstorming session. There was another lady there as well that was doing that. And it was, I don't think it was Sunny and Matt, actually, it was somebody else anyway. But you'd had this session, and you were so fired up. And then obviously suddenly all of this happened straight away. So there was a confusion between, nobody was hearing from you. Everyone was hearing from the people around you who were deadly worried about you and thinking, oh my God, this is kind of going to be the end. And there's other people going, well, I just got an email from Susie and she said she's absolutely fine and she's going to come down and, you know, do something at the hub or this. And it was such a confusing time for people. And then everybody started to realize, I think, that what you had done is you were not in your life at that moment. You were in another part of your life where you were creating your future. Totally. And you weren't here in the physical 3D with us all. And we had to deal with what was happening with your life. So cancelling things and not coming to meetings and everyone talking about it. And then everybody else, you know, being sincerely worried about you. And you're just like, no, I'm fine. Like, it's absolutely fine. So
who's coming? How are we going to film it? Yeah, and I had a photographer. I'd be briefing him on, you know, what kind of lighting we needed, what kind of, you know, bits and pieces we need for this film. And and I remember I called up Marion Stone, who had her place up for rent. It was near the beach. I thought, oh, fancy living near the beach. So I actually rented her house. When I was in hospital, I called her up and said I wanted to rent her house. And I got Anna to take some cash over to her and put it down as a deposit while I was still like literally in hospital. It was a bonkers time. That's why I remember
seeing Anna at the airport randomly as well on the way back to Ibiza. And I was just, how are you? And she was just like, oh, you know, like exhausted from the back and forth and having to be the one in the real world here with you going through that process. Did you ever have a like, not in a guilty sense, but obviously it was an intense amount of pressure for people who wanted to support you, who wanted to be there. Did you ever have a point at all throughout that period where you maybe got overwhelmed about how much intensity this had brought to other people's lives, or were you just clearly unaware and it was just you were just
unaware? You know, when I got back, a couple of people sat me down and said, "Did you realise the impact this has had on our lives? It's quite considerable." And, you know, and I'm setting about writing my book called "I Lost My Mind" about this story, and a couple of people have said, "I'd rather not go back over it because it was quite, you know, painful time because." It was intense. It was intense for everybody. You know, people were holding really strong space for me to keep my life. And so, you know, and I was very hectic. I was busy before I got ill. When I got ill, my productivity rose about 1,000
through the roof.
You know, writing books, making films, calling press conferences, organizing new places to live and new wardrobes. I wanted all new clothes and You know, I was just going crazy because I had no filters. So I was difficult to be around. You know, even my family who loved me dearly said, you were really difficult to be around. You know, you're ordering like tons of stuff that was arriving all the time because you thought you needed it.
Literally, you're packing for this adventure and no one else knows that you're going on it. And you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to do this. And it was, you know, it's fun to look back over, but at the time also.
At the time, it's quite serious. And, you know, I got this thing about trainers and I was ordering like 50 pairs of trainers that would all be arriving at our house, and someone had to take them all back. My brothers had to take them all back to the post office and post it all back again, you know, just like return. And so I was, you know, I was difficult to be around. And I lived with my brothers for 6 months after I came out of hospital because I couldn't come back on my own. And I needed to be constantly looked after. And so, you know, I was a handful. I know I was a handful. I was a fun handful, but I was a handful.
Fun. And how does that, in terms of like just natural human emotions for you, obviously being aware that you can be a handful to people, how does that play on you now? Do you ever have moments where you sit and you feel maybe guilty or shameful, or is it something that you've had to process, or how does that make you feel that that's part of what you went through?
The most difficult part of this journey has been integrating back into life and recovery. Not getting better from the illness, but actually integrating back into life. You know, I came back to Ibiza and within 36 hours, I popped out with Anna for a drink. It was around Christmas time. We went to a Christmas party at the hub. We were away about an hour and a half, came back and my house was on fire. And
that was my next thing I was going to say. Not only did this happen, your house was on fire.
I came back on the Wednesday. Friday night, we went out. Friday night, 9 o'clock, get back to my house, open the doors, red flames, the whole house is black, everything is burnt, it's just cinders everywhere, and we couldn't even get in the house. Called the fire brigade, and you know, it's a good job the gas didn't blow because it could have blown up the whole house. But you know, it was a major fire and I could never stay in the house again. It was completely burnt. And then when the fire has subsided a couple of days later and we could go in, there's black soot everywhere, and there's one tarot card sitting on the top called Rebirth. The Rebirth card was on top, not burnt. Everything else in the house, furniture, chairs, wooden tables, everything had gone. What? Books gone. Rebirth card intact on top of it all. Mad. I took a picture of it. I've got that picture. Wow. It's amazing. Yeah. So I was chucked out of my house. So I had to move house.
Spiritually shifted along. There you go.
That took a lot of resource. You know, like 10 or 15 women came around, helped pack up my house, move. It was a blur to me. I don't even remember what happened or how I got moved, but they moved me all into a new place. So I had a lot of integrating. You know, I had to get myself back on track. I hadn't worked for a year and a half. You know, massive, and I'm spending a lot of money on trainers.
It was great though.
It was tricky. So getting back to life was hard, and I didn't know who I was, where I was, what to do, and what to do after you've died and come back. You know, it's a weird one. I didn't want the life I had before, even though it was a really nice life. I still suffer a bit from this. It's like transition trauma. I've just made up that term, but there is a thing of transition trauma. When you transition from one life to another and you have to, everyone else is carrying on as normal and you're seeing things so differently. I do this now and I see the world differently to everyone else. And it can be difficult. You know,
it can be lonely.
I've had a difficult time getting back in, but thank God I've got my son and really good friends around me, and my writing, you know, I've really learned into the writing. I finished this book this year. I spent a lot of time during lockdown finishing it and editing it and playing around with that. So that kind of took my mind into this creative zone, which kept it occupied and out of feeling traumatized. But I must do some therapy to get rid of, you know, my cells must still have, you know, a lot of trauma in them.
What kind of obviously you've got an expansive knowledge and an acute awareness of therapy styles and obviously what is out there and what's available. You've studied this stuff for a very long time, and obviously you're going to choose the best thing for what it is. What would that be for you? What sort of therapy do you think you would need right now?
Well, I found hypnosis really useful before, during my thing, to actually shrink what was going on and also instruct my cells to do things differently. That was very useful. I found theta healing such an amazing modality. You know, I've done that for years, and I trained with the creator of theta healing. I got her a book deal and we're friends. So I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot. You know, I think talking therapy is good if you get someone really good. I didn't know a lot about, I know what works for me, and I'm doing more of that. A lot of sort of healing around Reiki, and meditation's my main sort of foundation stone into being calm and being, you know, relaxing the body.
What sort of meditation do you do? Is there a particular style, or is it
TM meditation? So I've worked for years with I mean, my book has got a David Lynch quote. The wonderful film director David Lynch gave me a lot of support with this book. I interviewed him and he agreed for a front cover quote, and I've written a chapter about the David Lynch Foundation because it gets TM meditation out to the world, to millions of people, at-risk people, women at risk, veterans, people who've come out of war zones, all this sort of thing. It's immensely helpful for trauma and ADHD and all of these sorts of things, as well as just being able to live a normal life and get creative. I find it an amazing tool. I've been meditating, TM meditator, for about 15 years. It's changed my life. So I've used that a lot.
And TM, just for the listeners, just in case they don't know what it means Transcendental Meditation, and it's a practice that is available to. It's a bit more official in terms of a meditation, and what I mean by official is where that you actually go and you assigned a teacher who will show you the practice, who will give you a particular word that you can focus on, and it's truly for individuals really who are serious about self-discipline. And I think it's so important for people to understand that there are many various types of meditation. It can come in many forms, but in order to find something that truly switches you off I personally feel that Transcendental Meditation, you know, from myself and my own perspective, is one of the quickest and most simplest ways to understand it and to get into it. And it can really, you know, set the body into a very relaxed state. So if anybody's interested, please do Google it. It is fascinating.
David Lynch Foundation is a good place to try that. I'm actually setting up a TM teaching. You know, I get a teacher from the foundation, from the David Lynch Foundation, over to Ibiza twice a year, and we're going to do it again this autumn to teach a lot of people on the island how to do it, because it's the single most powerful tool. You know, I had a stressful job. I had a celebrity PR agency running around the world, flying here, there and everywhere. I was exhausted, and you know, TM really saved me.
And you worked with some incredible clients as well, didn't you? Before, I think you had Madonna, Michael Jackson, a few others. So you were out there doing your thing, and the whirlwind.
I was heavy on that celebrity world, and you know, that has its own traumas, and you know, I had to deal with a lot of shit when I was looking after these people. You know, they're not easy, and they're very demanding. So that was fast and fun, but very exhausting.
Oh, bless you. Well, listen, I wanted to, you know, have you on here as I promised. And I sat on the floor in your old house and said, you know, I would just love to have you on a radio show on the other side of this. And we are here.
Yay!
Here we are. Yay! I love it. But I want to just thank you so much. And obviously from a friend's perspective, it's been such a beautiful process to see you go through and to see you pop up on my email the other week, because obviously I'm switched off from the world with no social media or anything, and the lockdown had happened. To see you pop up. So I will say to anybody out there, if you do have a database, or you do have people you're not worried, or you're not sure whether you want to reach out to anyone or not, or whether to put that person on your database, you never know how they're going to feel when they see an email from you and it's been a long time. And that's what happened with me and you, Susie. You popped up and I thought I would just love to reconnect and go back in, because I'd not seen anyone for ages. So thank you so much for doing that. And
it's newsletter worth writing. You know, I got a couple of people who I hadn't spoken to in ages when I sent out newsletters to a new list I hadn't spoken to for a while. You know, having a couple of people lean in and go, "Oh, it's good to hear from you." You know, that's so nice.
Yeah, it is. And it's important. We live in a lockdown world at the moment, which is a strange term, but I do believe there's a positive side to it, and the world is in process at the moment, which, you know, the world's going through what I think you went through, and some of us can believe it and some of us don't, and I certainly am not one of these people buying into the fear. I've got on a different trajectory and I'm coming out on a different side. Totally.
We're expanding, consciousness is raising, we're becoming aware of the things that weren't working for us, and they're being changed really, really fast. So we've got to step up and help that process.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Susie. Is there anything else that you would like to say? And just before you go, I've got this new thing where you can just go like this. Look, I can just, there you go, susiepearl.com. So that's going to be on there. And for anybody else who can't see that, sorry, if you are listening, it is www.susiepearl.com. If you want to find out anything more about Susie, about any of the books that Susie's written, or any of the information that she's got here, there's so many blogs on there as well, and incredible information about partnerships that Susie's working with. So please do check out the website. Is there anything you want to add to that, Susie, before we...
Yeah, you can also get me on Twitter, Susie Pearl X. Instagram, Susie Pearl X, and Twitter I'm on, and Facebook, But do say hi. It would be really nice. For me, it's about building communities of positive, inspiring, happy topics, and we've got to support each other in these crazy times. So it's lovely talking to you, Nat. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to play the outro, but I'll see you on the other side. But anyone who's listening, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you can. If you like the video, please do, and feel free to share it. If you've got any questions, either myself or Susie will answer them for you. But thank you so much for watching today, and we will see you on the next one.